Welcome to another episode of Nightmare Stories of the Other Side, where we talk about paranormal investigations, experiences, encounters, and everything in between. This afternoon, we are joined by Rita Olsen from AZ Ghost Adventures. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would. So my name's Rita. I am obviously out of Arizona, AZ Ghost Adventures. We conduct what I call historically haunted investigations. We're very historically based. We go into some of the most haunted locations in Arizona. And whenever possible, I travel all over the country investigating and learning the history of locations and and then giving that information out to our followers.
So, correct me if I butcher this pronunciation, but Acadia Ranch, I
Acadia.
saw the
Yep.
Acadia Ranch. You went there, I'm sorry, in April,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about how that went and a little bit about the property itself.
Okay. And so we have several locations that we go to multiple times during the course of the year, and we've been going there 4 years. Uh, and I don't mean four as the number four, but 4 years. And Acadia Ranch, old tubercular sanatorium. What a lot of people don't know is that when tuberculosis was prevalent, that people would come out to Arizona for the dry air, fresh air, and the sunshine. So Oracle, which is where Acadia Ranch is located, Oracle was one of those hot spots for people to go to. And it, I don't in any way, shape, or form want to make it sound pleasant at all because I work in healthcare. I've been exposed to tubercular patients. It's a horrible, horrible disease. Um, and people would be separated from their families, and we're not talking just adults, we're talking children also. And they would get on these trains and go to certain locations. Another location in Arizona where a sanatorium was is in Cave Creek, Arizona, where we also investigate. But again, Acadia Ranch was a building that was used as a tubercular sanatorium. People would go there. What they don't realize also is that back when tuberculosis was prevalent, we didn't have antibiotics. And the way that they treated it or experimented, what we would consider now was archaic. Just the things that they would do to people to try to figure out what would help, what could help them. And the doctors pretty much had free reign. And I'm not saying that they were doing bad things, but in any profession, you had bad people also. So I'm sure you had some great doctors and you had some bad doctors. So that building has seen a lot of tragedy insofar as the deaths from tuberculosis. Also, that building, it wasn't only used as a tubercular sanatorium, it was used as a residence. I mean, it had many uses over the years. But one of the more tragic things that happened was there was a little 7-year-old boy, and he found his father's pistol, and there was an unfortunate accident that happened on the porch of that building. And we have his spirit come through quite a bit also. And I think while I don't think cemeteries are notorious for being haunted or having spirits there, I do. I mean, if I were a spirit, I would certainly not want to be hanging around a cemetery. But you do have some spirits there. There's also a cemetery not a block from the location where so many of the people that passed over the years at this location that they were laid to rest. So we have a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of things going back, coming back and forth on
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's just a building that has a lot that has happened with it. I mean, just a lot. Yeah, we something else I like to point out, the Arizona, you always hear about the Wild Wild West, and you hear
Yep.
about Big Nose Kate and the Earp Brothers and Doc Holliday and Buffalo Bill Cody. What a lot of people don't realize is they were not just in Tombstone. They kind of did the circuit, so to speak. And they all spent time in Oracle as they did in Globe, where I spend a fair amount of my time. So we at Acadia Ranch, we have Buffalo Bill Cody come through quite a bit. And ironically, his hijink silver mine is not far from Acadia Ranch. That's where he was based out of, was Oracle for that. Not saying he made any money at it. Apparently it was a huge failure. But yeah, Buffalo Bill Cody spent a lot of time in Oracle, Arizona.
Mhm. Sweet. So, do you stick only to Arizona places or do you travel?
Oh no, I travel as much as possible. Like I was just talking about that I had been out to Minnesota at the Palmer
Yeah.
House. If I attend Paracons, I will not only attempt to do the investigations that are affiliated with that, but if I'm flying somewhere, I'm going to spend some extra time out there and go to some different locations. Fortunately, uh, my job, I have more flexibility with my schedule, so I get to do more traveling. I will have to say, if you have not been, one of the most intense places that I've been to during my travels is the Sally House.
We were just there, what, a month ago?
Well,
Very
you tell me, Matt, what were you getting from it?
so at one point we were all, how many of us were there, Courtney?
Six, I think.
Yeah, there was like six of us, and we were, oh man, I shouldn't have leaned back. The sun's right in my eyes.
Oh,
Anyways,
I got no sun here. It's about to have a tornado, so.
mm. But anyways, so we were all in the dining room area, and when you're like going up the stairs, they have that window ledge right there.
Hmm.
We had a ball placed in that window ledge next to a little wooden duck toy. And all of a sudden we hear this loud thump, and here comes the ball flying down the stairs.
Hmm.
Right
And
at the.
I swear to God, Courtney and my daughter were gonna jump through the floor. They were so excited.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we definitely.
that place is amazing. We went, it was just myself and another team member, and and we had heard the stories about it, but I kind of like to go in blind
Yep.
into locations. I don't want anything jading what I'm getting. And immediately when we went in, my team member got sick. She's like, I got to step outside. And she's never had that happen. And then at one point during the investigation, I walked into the kitchen. You know how the refrigerator's on the right side? I mean,
Yep.
the kitchen wasn't made to have a big refrigerator like that. So there's a
Mhm.
gap between the refrigerator and the counter. And there was a
Mhm.
vacuum cleaner there. And I
Yeah, I
walked
was gonna
into the
go in
counter
there.
to grab like a bottle of water or something. And I tend to walk very fast. And I walked in to grab it and I turned my head and there, plain as day, and it's one of those you turn your head and you go back and you're like, what the heck did I just see? Was a little boy, a little blonde boy, crouched down like this, hiding behind the vacuum cleaner.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I was like, wonderful. And I knew it was going to be active because when I went in, I have this like rosary
Yeah.
bracelet I wear. Well, I also had a bracelet that said God is great and Morse code on it. And I had not taken that bracelet off in years. And I got there and we were there for just a few minutes and I looked down, I'm like, where where is my bracelet? My other one, and it was on the floor, but but the clasp was fine.
It's weird.
I mean, it
Crazy.
wasn't broken at all. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. This is going to be good. And it was an amazing night. I did not go into the basement. I need to go back because my teammate was every time she'd go near that basement, she's like, I'm gonna throw up. And they had the door closed with a sign on it that you had to leave the door closed because they didn't want the breeze blowing out the water heater
Okay.
flame, whatever you call that, the pilot.
Yep.
And so every time I opened the door to go down there, it was like something was telling me, get out. Something did not want me down in that basement. And I am a firm believer in following your gut when you're investigating. And I was like,
Yes.
you know what? And I tried several times during the course of the night to go down there. And every time I'd open that door, I kept getting that feeling of get out. And I knew if I went down there, I might not be the safest, and I would be by myself. So I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
No. And it's not a matter of being afraid. It's a matter of I just didn't want to be unsafe because I really felt like something very strong was down there. And I
Yeah.
have my own theories on what really is in the Sally house. I believe that if you want me to share it with you.
Yeah, go ahead. For sure.
So we know the story of the Sally house is that there was a woman there, an old woman. And we also know that the story says that there was a little girl that had passed there during an appendectomy, that her appendix had burst. Well, when we were doing an Estes, I was having an older woman coming through, but she was saying that she was a nurse. She was a nurse. She was a nurse. She was a nurse. And working what I do, I've worked for years with my background's in mental behavioral health. I work in occupational therapy, but I've worked with a lot of elderly people. And I just kept getting that it was this old woman. And they apparently, how she had passed there was they found her on the stairs. She had fallen, and that's how she passed. Well, I just kept getting that the little girl is actually the old woman. And
Interesting.
and they had said that the old woman had dementia. And what a lot of people don't know is when you have dementia, older people tend to regress back to
Also,
like
Yeah.
no historical proof that there was ever a little girl named Sally that died there of that surgery.
yeah.
Just to put that in there.
And and we were getting it with Estes. I did Estes in multiple rooms, and I kept getting, I think the older woman when she was younger, she was a nurse. So, that whole thing, or maybe she had an appendectomy when she was younger, an emergency appendectomy. But I firmly believe that the little girl, Sally, is the old lady.
That makes so much sense.
That's not very nice.
I've never thought of that. That's
Right,
amazing.
neither have I.
I'm saying it. It is the older lady that had dementia, because I cannot tell you how many patients I have worked with that have dementia and they have regressed, especially if it's Alzheimer's, to a child state.
I've just heard that before, though, like that spirits, if they prefer how they were
Yeah.
as a child, they'll just present as a child.
Mhm.
So
And they say, and I definitely got that feeling of something was very angry. Another hallmark of dementia, especially Alzheimer's, is anger. They get very frustrated. They get very angry. And I kind of felt like I was at work working on one of the lockdown units with an Alzheimer's patient that was, was associating themselves with their younger self. So that is my theory on the Sally house, and I cannot wait to go back.
Yeah, another interesting thing that happened when we were there. So I was upstairs in the kids' room, and it was me and another investigator that was with us. And Courtney had set up all the toys in the middle of the room in a circle. And I kind of went and sat in the corner by the closet in the bed there. And I had a REM pod on the floor. And I was moving toys around on the bed to set my camera up there. And every time I touched the bed or any of the toys, the REM pod would just go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I quit touching it, nothing. It wouldn't go off. As soon as I went, towards the bed again, it just would blow up. My daughter and the other guy that we're with tried the same thing that I was doing. They didn't get any responses. So something wasn't happy that I was touching the bed or moving the toys around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope when I go back, I can't tell. Is my screen light enough? Because I had darkened it on my end.
Yeah, it goes dark and then gets light again.
Yeah, and the suns, we're getting a lot of like clouds coming through. I had to close the blinds. So I'll try to move a little bit if it starts getting darker. We were expecting some storms out here this afternoon. But anyways, yeah, it's that location. There is a story there that needs to be found out. And my feelings on paranormal is, and I know you had said that, we'll talk about how I came about doing what I do and my first experiences. But I truly believe that I do this and I have the things happen to me and I'm not saying I'm a medium in any way, shape, or form, but there's definitely something there, a sensitivity, we'll call it. And I believe that I have been on this path and doing this and get to, I love experience this, getting to experience what I experienced because there's a story there that needs to be told.
Oh, for sure.
And even on our investigations, I say, I do like a little preamble in each room. And I say, I'm just here to learn your story and get it out because I feel that's why I've been driven to do this because it's not easy. I mean, conducting paranormal investigations for groups of people, it's a lot of work.
Oh,
It's
definitely.
wonderful, but it's not easy by any means. And just getting these stories, having these spirits come forth and give us their stories, and maybe finding out that some of the urban legends are just that, urban legends, and that there's something else going on. And getting to have other people uh, learn also. We have so many people that they come on so many of our investigations because they become ingrained in a location and they want to learn that. That's like their own personal journey.
Yeah.
Or people who come on our investigations that maybe have abilities and they don't know what to do with them. Or, they're like, we've been having all this stuff happen, and then it's like you might want to, delve into utilizing the abilities you have. And then there's also making people not be afraid of paranormal activity because
Yeah.
there's so many negative
Mhm.
connotations around it, and which is really unfortunate. I think that's one of the most unfortunate things in the paranormal community.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sorry.
Totally.
I can talk all day, number one, and number two, I'm like squirrel. So what were
Yeah,
you talking about?
me
All
too.
right. So with that, let's go back to your beginnings in the paranormal and how you got into it.
Well, I tell everyone I've experienced paranormal as far back as I can remember. My first biggest, and when you're a little kid, it's maybe you have an imaginary friend, or you're a kid. It's 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 just what it is. It's what you know, right?
Yeah.
You're not afraid of it. I never thought I had like monsters in my room or anything like that, but there were definitely things that were happening around
Yeah,
me. And then the first time I remember it being like, whoa, this is a little, I'm seeing things that other people aren't seeing, was in Chicago. And we would, when you're younger, you'd like to go hang out at the lake, especially like on the weekends. A group of your friends would go hang out on the lake at Lake Michigan. And this specific spot on the lake, you had a fence and you had to go through the fence. And it would be people coming out in a single file and people going in a single file. So everyone could, go where they needed to go. And we were going in, and I happened to be like at the front of the line of friends. I can see my screen looks like I'm getting all washed out. But we were going in, and I was in the very front, and I looked up and I saw this girl. And to this day, I can remember exactly what she looked like. She had blonde hair, like platinum blonde hair, shoulder length of bob. She was a little bit heavier set. But when I looked at her face, she looked like a dead person. And I was just like, what? What did I, it's not like I was drinking or anything like that. I was just like, what did I just see? And I
Right.
turned around to tell my friends, look at that, because, I was at the head of the single file line. And I turned around to tell my friends, look at her. But when I turned around to my left, she was gone. And it's at that point that I realized maybe I saw something that no one else
Right.
can see. And then and as I got a little bit older, especially, they say when you're a teenager, puberty and things like that tend to heighten what's going on. And things just started happening more and more, especially like knowing something that would be going on or seeing somebody or having objects move or, hearing things. And it really ramped up when I had moved to Texas from Chicago, and the house that I lived in, brand new house in a subdivision, and it was probably the most active home I've ever been in. And, and it seemed like there were child spirits there, but then and again, I say spirits are tricksters. But I mean, we would have people come over in the middle of the day and say, are your kids home? Because knowing that they were in school, because they're like, I saw a kid standing there in your living room, or peeking around the corner. So yeah, so it really ramped up, and this was a long time ago. And at the time, people really didn't like talking about it. And I was so thankful when the show Ghost Hunters came out, Taps,
Yep.
because then it was like, okay, I'm not crazy. Because there were times that I thought I was crazy. I would be home. Again, my husband traveled a lot for his job. I would be home, go run an errand, come back, and things would be moved around in my house. So, or things would turn on and off a lot. And so then when that show came on, I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. There's something here. So I always had that, like, that low level of you don't know what to do with it. And so it is a little scary, and you don't want to talk about it because people might think you're a little nuts. And then as I got older, I kind of learned more to control it, how to control it. And then I moved to Arizona. Well, I lived in Washington State too, kind of moved around a little bit, but then came to Arizona and got involved with going on full-fledged paranormal investigations, became one of the team members for AZ Ghost Adventures. And then when the previous owner needed to move, I mean, it was just the next progression. The natural step was for me to buy the company, and I've had it ever since. That's my life
So
in a nutshell.
very good. So where was the first location that you ever went to investigate?
Oh my, I do remember that out here in Arizona was the 1910 Gila County Jail. And it's an amazing location. It's the most notorious prisoner there is Kingsley Olds. He was accused of murdering the two Goswick sisters, Lulu and Myrtle. And over the course of years investigating there, um, I I don't believe that story. I think it was something else. And he was assassinated in his cell. That was back when vigilantism was rampant. It was in 1911. And he comes through quite a bit. But we also have quite a few other things come through at that jail. I mean, there were some pretty hardened people. Again, wild, wild west, gold mining or silver.
Oh,
It was silver
yeah.
mining here, silver mining town. There were, the Earps were out here. Doc Holliday, Big Nose Kate had a boarding house a half a block from the 1910 jail. So there was a lot going on in this city.
All right, Jada, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. So I wanted to ask you, how do you choose where you investigate? What are some what are the selling points whenever you're hearing about a place? What makes you want to go there?
Well, so I've got two things I'm looking at. Is it a location that I'm going to that I may want to host investigations at?
Mhm.
If that's the case, what I'll do, there's a whole list of things that are involved with that because we're a small business and we have liability insurance, and we'll go to locations and I have to rent it. And then I'll openly tell the owner, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see if there's a there. Because
Yeah.
if there's not, I mean, there's some locations before I bought this company, there's some locations that this company used to investigate at that I won't investigate at because I don't feel like there is a there.
Yeah.
Just because it's on the face of the earth doesn't mean it's haunted.
Right.
And or just because it's an old building doesn't mean it's haunted.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. And again, if I'll learn the history or sometimes I go in blind, it just depends. One of our most recent locations is the 1912 Freemasons building here in
Yeah.
Globe. And they contacted me actually because they were having some things happen. And they're like, can you come in and take a look? And I did. And they really appreciated our investigation style because we are, again, historically based. And so now they allow us, we're the exclusive team to go in there to host paranormal investigations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was so excited. And we do we have what we call a paraphilosophy. And one of our tenets in our paraphilosophy is you give back to the community that allows you to investigate. And we're pretty well known in Globe, which is great. But we give back a lot. We do a lot of pro bono work. We host a Christmas toy drive. We try to give back as much as possible. So yeah, so that's how we go in that way. So the location may contact me or I may contact the location. If it's just myself, it's whatever city I've been in. And honestly, to me, it's not the most prominent location. Like everyone says they want to go to Waverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys been to Waverly Hills?
I've been there twice.
Was it really crowded when you went?
So the first time I went, it was July of 2024, and my daughter and I went on a junior public investigation, and there was about 60 people there. But you hardly ever saw because it's such a big location.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time I went there was like 15 of us, and there were people I never even saw at all that night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to see anybody.
Right.
I don't want to have the opportunity of something polluting the evidence that I get. Because then I don't know, is it a person over there? I'll tell you, one of the great places I've been to is Nevada State Prison. That's an amazing location. And I went to the Washoe Club and I wasn't that thrilled with it. I mean, everyone talks about the Washoe Club. I'm sure it's a great building. I did have some things happen, but it just, it just wasn't my cup of tea. Yeah, so it's not necessarily that it's the well-known location. I will be more than happy to go into some place where nobody has been into. And that's what we've done. Like we had the 3-story Elks building here. And at the one point, it was the tallest 3-story building in the world. And it housed the Elks and a mortuary business in the lower levels. And it had been nobody in it for years. I mean, years. And the owners bought it and they contacted me and they said, well, are you interested in going in it? And I mean, we literally had to wear like N95 masks and, have sleeves and long pants on because there was so much debris and things like that in there, just to see, is that a location that we would like, that is there or there, number one, and, is it safe to take people into, number two? But yeah, so there's a lot of things in play. But if I'm traveling, I try to get into as many places. Like we had talked about South Carolina earlier. I'll just go to as many places as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same.
Boston is another great place to investigate at.
I'm sure I've been to Boston once.
So speaking of going places, like I mentioned earlier before she jumped in, Courtney's going out to Arizona in like what?
Yeah.
3 weeks or a month or something?
First week in May.
First week in May. What part of Arizona are you going to be in?
A lot of places, actually. We're gonna start in Tombstone and then we're gonna work our way over to God, what's the name of that town? It's like on the other side to the east. God, it's a smaller town too. I can't think of it. Oh, it's the town that Vulture City is by.
Wickenburg.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of do like a little circle, and there's some smaller towns in between. We're gonna try to stay at the Jerome Grand Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It's also just a beautiful place. And there's a couple other places. I'm still doing a little bit of research because I gotta confirm it, but I'm hoping to get an overnight at the Birdcage on Saturday, the first night that we're there in Tombstone.
Nice.
Kind of tricky to set up, but she's a busy gal, that one.
Yeah.
Paula, yeah.
Yeah, first weekend in May, that's actually the Sierra Vista. They're having like a supernatural paracon out there.
They are? Oh, I didn't even know that.
I'm excited to go to someplace that I don't have to fly to. And then Yuma, I mean, it's but they are actually having a investigation. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I snagged a ticket. where
That's
you
cool.
can investigate there. I had just been to Yuma a few weeks ago and went to the territorial prison. And so I saw that they had an investigation there on the 9th. So that's going to be really nice. That's going to be really fun. And you said, how many weeks are you out there in Arizona?
We're there for 8 days and 7 nights. So yeah, that's too bad because the ninth is the day that we're gonna be in Tombstone. But there's no way we could get all the way out there. We're just getting there that
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
So yeah, oh that sucks. But what day is the Paracon?
The Paracon is the first and second.
Oh, that's before we're there then. Okay. Well, at
Yeah.
least I'm
Are you coming the 9th through the 16th?
yes. The eighth,
Too hot.
15th. Yes, the
It
eighth.
won't be too hot. Cool. Yeah, I mean, there's Wickenburg's a neat town. They have Tombstone's a neat town. I'm just thinking around you were saying that you wanted to go to Jerome. They have an amazing company out there that does I haven't used them for a few years, but last time I used them I was really happy. I mean, I believe I'm a small business and I believe in giving business to small businesses. It's called like Haunted Arizona or something. It's got like the skull and crossbones, and
Okay.
it's just down the street from the Jerome Grand. And they take you into the cemetery and things like that. Cemetery is a neat place.
Okay.
I was investigating there, and I had my spirit box out, and the gal who was doing our investigation, she's like, you know what to do. You just go in there. And I had my own equipment and everything. And she was sitting outside, and all of a sudden, this name Eugene, I mean, came through loud and clear, and she comes running in, and I said, what is Eugene? Eugene is the name of the founder. The founder's husband is Eugene, and I was right by where he was buried. So that was really interesting. And if they can take you into the old high school, amazing building.
Yeah. Oh, is
Amazing.
it called Jerome Ghost Tours, maybe?
It's called, or Arizona Ghost Tours. Yeah. I mean, I just remember that their logo is like I said, skull and cross. It's like a skull with a cowboy hat and crossbones, and
Okay.
they're just down the street. And yeah, they're a good company. I've been on a couple of their tours because again, I've done the Jerome Grand on my own. I've done a couple of other places out there. Uh, but this company, they did a good job. Yeah. Insofar as going around the city, because I didn't want to go into the cemetery at night by myself and get arrested. So I
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah.
somebody.
And then I think we're gonna stop in Goldfield too for a little bit, but trying to get a little bit of each place, as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, if you get a chance, come out to Globe. I mean, it's spectacular. It is true historic. I mean, you kind of feel like you're walking down Mayberry RFD when you're going down the street, but this is a city, and this is why I love being here because it's kind of like not everyone knows about it.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's my own little secret. And
Church, I found the jail actually, so
yeah,
that's what
well,
brought
we
me to
in
that.
Globe, we've got the jail, the Globe Train Depot, the Elks Building. We've got another building where the Knights of Pythias met. We've got the Freemasons, and then just in the sister city next door, we have Boyan Plaza, and which is amazing. So, so yeah, it's the city, both cities, because they call it like Globe Miami because they're kind of like they're just within a few minutes of each other. They have really embraced the paranormal and and the things that go on in their buildings. And they, in fact, this will be our second year hosting the Globe Paracon at one of the historic buildings, and then we'll have investigations that night too. But they really embrace it. I mean, they have the Ghost of Globe cemetery walk, and there's so much history out here, and it is truly active. I'm gonna put myself on a limb. I have been to both Globe and Tombstone. I think Globe's more active than Tombstone. There, I
Well,
said.
we're going for the history too, so I love that you mentioned that because we're all about it. We love historical stuff. So honestly, Tombstone is more like just things to do during the day too, which is
When
a
you
reason why we want to go to Tombstone. I know it's a little overrated, but I still feel like it's like important to go there.
No, no, you got to see it. When you go to
Yeah.
Tombstone, Go to the Pete Spence house, and he was one of the men accused of murdering Wyatt Earp, and not Wyatt, I'm sorry, Morgan Earp. And he actually got off like on a technicality, and he moved out to Globe.
Okay.
And this is where he stayed for the rest of his days, and this is where he's buried. His partner in crime, Finn Clanton, is buried not too far from him. So, yeah, so I mean, these cities, like I was saying earlier to Matt, these cities are all tied together.
Yeah.
You know, Oracle, where Acadia Ranch is, and Globe, and they all followed the stagecoach route, and Tombstone. And if you get a chance, go to Bisbee also if you're
Oh,
done.
yes, that was the other
Bisbee,
town.
amazing, amazing city. It's the Copper Queen Hotel out there is
That-
definitely a place to stay at, and they like when people investigate there. So yeah. I've
Awesome.
been in places that like me investigating there.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
All right, Jada, more questions?
More questions. So I want you to give the audience a little bit of insight into what AZ paranormal means.
AZ Paranormal or AZ Ghost Adventures?
What did I just say? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I
Okay,
can't read. AZ Ghost Adventures, I don't know where I am at right now.
That's okay. I'm getting a weird shadow, so let's see if I can. So you want some insight into what AZ Ghost Adventures, I'm so sorry,
What the name means.
what the name means. Well, interestingly enough, when I bought the company, the name of the company was AZ Ghost Adventures. It's not the name I would have picked. I think it's entirely too close to a television show
Yeah.
Yep.
think
that
they
I
made
don't
something
think
on
that we have
purpose.
fun with. But they are like a completely different philosophy than I am. But when I bought the company, and it was during COVID, by the way, who buys a paranormal investigation company during COVID?
You're
Uh,
bored.
yeah, I'm gonna buy a company where we have to have people, together. We literally were still wearing masks then. But I think people were looking forward to doing something to get out of the house. Uh, but
Yeah.
I I had looked into changing the name when I first bought it, but all the social media was in that name. All the accounts were in that name. The liability insurance was in that name. Website was in it would have just been too difficult to
Yeah.
change it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is we have so we have our Facebook page, and we have our backup, our evidence and discussion, but we also have a Facebook page called Arizona Hauntings and the Supernatural, which is probably what I would have named it. But I love this. It's my company. I turned it in a direction that I wanted to go into. So before it was, I mean, we were great locations. We still go to a lot of those same locations. A few I dropped from where we go to, but we are all about being historically based.
Yeah.
We are all about being real. I don't, we want to debunk what we can debunk. I don't feel that we ever need to fake any evidence, or we need to, we just don't. I also am very clear that we are there to converse with the spirits and to learn their story. And again, with my paraphilosophy that I had mentioned earlier, we actually have a list of things. And our two biggest things are you're respectful to the location and you're respectful to the spirits. It's not my job to judge them. And I think, and maybe that's what's kind of driven me to my life in healthcare, also being a healthcare provider, because I have worked in psych hospitals and things like that.
Yeah.
You can't judge, you can't.
Mhm.
But we go in, and especially with our guests, and we're very respectful. And I tell the spirits, we're just here to learn your story. I also tell all our guests, I really don't feel that there's anything of an evil, demonic nature in our buildings. If I did, I would be the last person to be in that building, because
Yeah.
I don't want anything like that
Yeah.
attaching itself to me. So we go in with that philosophy or that paraphilosophy. And I'll tell you, you catch a lot more flies with honey because the spirits get to know you. And especially in Globe, where I'm in these buildings all the time, even when I'm not investigating them, I'm in the buildings a lot, either visiting the docents or, doing something for them, or volunteering some time. And the spirits, I truly believe that they will respond better to you and come forward more, even the ones that were probably really crappy people when they were alive. But again, not my job to judge them. I just want to know their story and bring it forth. And we have found that's our secret sauce. I mean, if you and I've had people, I tell people up front, if you go in, we don't allow any conjuring, we don't allow any, trying to bring forth anything dark, anything like that. And I had someone once come, it was from another team. And he's like, well, I would love to, his team had disbanded. He's like, I'd love to join your team. I'm like, well, come on and do an investigation with us and let's see how you're doing and, see if it's a fit. And, when it's break time and I find you doing pretend videos that, there's a demon in the building.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah.
And I think that's been part of our ability to be a stable team also, that we're real. If you've got to start pretending what you're doing, then it's gonna eventually that house of cards is gonna
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, as someone who's experienced paranormal all their life, I truly believe in it. Why would I want to do anything that would cause problems for myself?
For sure.
Yeah. I don't need that. So,
No.
have any of you ever had like an attachment follow you home?
No.
My
Yeah.
dad did.
We all have, I think.
Well, not me, but
Well, not like in a direct way, but you've
no.
had some things like that. I don't know that mine was direct either, but like when I went to Ireland, I went to the Hellfire Caves, and we also just explored like a ton of historic old castles and all that, and I had like this experience where I was walking through this doorway at one of the abandoned places, and I got like this really bad back pain. And then I was like, okay, that was weird. And then I get home, and then we started having weird stuff happen. Like the trap door in my garage flew open, and it has like a latch on it, so that's like crazy. Lights turning on in our basement. Like I don't know, just things like that. And
Yeah.
then, and then the picture frame in my office flying across the room, and in my bedroom, the roses that I have for my wedding literally fell off the wall, and it had been there for like a while. Like there was no reason. But yeah, things like that. And it kind of slowed down now, but it was right after we got back from Ireland. So I was like, I don't know how else to explain that, like why that suddenly happened, unless it was linked to that event.
Well,
Yeah.
I did have that happen once, and so I go between two homes because of my work, and my one out in the valley is way far in the middle of nowhere. It's on the Tano National Forest. It's Old Hohokam Ground. Let me pronounce it correctly. Hohokam Ground. And so we have a lot of activity in that house. And if you've experienced paranormal all your life, you kind of get used to it's your normal. Like what's going to happen, the sounds you're going to hear and whatever's going to happen, you're
Yeah.
used. And but I did an investigation once and something followed me home. And I kind of deserved it. I was being a butt. I don't even know why I said this because I'm always so respectful to the spirits, but I said, "Oh, I bet you did do that. Does that make you feel like, and even my team member was like, "What did you never talk like that. Never ever." And the next day, sure enough, stuff started happening at my house. And I was like, oh no. In fact, I saw him. I've told this story before on some podcasts. I was in my room, it was late at night. My husband had fallen asleep watching TV in the living room. I was reading my Kindle and I see this big black figure go across the foot of my bed. and I thought it was my husband. So I put down my Kindle because that was the only thing, light except for the night light. And I said, "Oh, you're coming to bed already?" And there was no one there. And it's one of those, the moment it happens, you know who it is. It was weird. And I was like, oh no. And because this was the day after the investigation, and I've never really been afraid in my home, even though it's in the middle of nowhere. But it was one of those, I couldn't even jump off the bed because I was afraid. You know those movies where something's under the
Oh, I
bed?
know because I was sitting in the living room when this frame over here flew across the room and my dogs were freaking out and I was on the couch and I was like, "Oh my God, I can't move. What just got thrown in my office?"
Yeah, and I went, but I finally jumped off the bed and ran in the living room and woke my husband up and said, "You need to come to bed."
Oh yeah.
So he comes to bed, and sure enough, right at around 3 in the morning. Now, I don't believe in the whole witching hour thing. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I think it's physiological, but how that whole theory came about. But it was right around 3 o'clock, and my bed is a heavy wooden king size bed, and something slammed into the side of the bed, woke me up, and said, "Hey," in my ear. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is bad. This is bad. So I called a psychic medium, a very reputable one, that morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad. I said something bad. I don't know why. I should have never done that. I've got a glare coming in. And she was like, hang on, let me close my mini blinds again. Hold on.
All right.
It's blinding me a little bit.
Oh, it's looking kind of yellow outside by my house.
Arizona.
Okay, so if Courtney
The
starts
power goes
twirling,
out. Just let you know it's because tornado took out my house. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, I'm not worried so much about it going dark, but if you start twirling, then
Well,
I'm
my
gonna be a
Wi-Fi
little
would probably
concerned.
go out if it gets that bad. It's supposed to be like 2 to 3 inches of 2 to 3 inch hail, and there was a tornado spotted 45 minutes or less from my house. So I'm
Right.
just, it might get kind of rough here at eight.
We haven't
Right.
we haven't gotten anything up here, so you keep it down
Oh,
there.
I looked at your radar and my radar, and we're getting hit like direct, and you're not. So lucky you.
Where are you?
Well,
We always do down here. It's like closer to Iowa. We're just blessed with that.
I guess.
It's good for distance when traveling to locations. Not so much when we're closer to the tornado belt, though.
Right?
we've had, I think, one tornado warning, and it was the year that I was born. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It seems like it shifted the last year because last year was really bad. There was a tornado like 20 minutes from my house that touched down, and there was multiple. The storm chasers were here, and
Ooh,
they have
that's
been on
cool.
several occasions. Yeah. So, anyways, let's go back to Rita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Your safety is key.
yeah.
But yeah, so I called my friend who it was a pretty well-known psychic medium, and I was like, "Hey, this happened. I know who it is." And she's like, "Yeah, you're right." She said, "Well, what you have to do is, go and talk to the spirits in your house, the ones that are with me all my life, and the ones that are on that land, because I do have some Apache spirits in my home there."
Mhm.
Not Apache, I'm so sorry, Hohokam spirits on my home there. And ask them to, help me with this. And the spirit, and it was Kingsley Olds from the jail that I was telling you about. Um, and say, I am so sorry. I don't know why I said that. I don't even think that. That's the thing. I don't think that. I don't think that he did what they say that he did. And so did something overcome me for a few moments? I don't know. But I was like, I am so sorry. You need to go back home though. That is your home. And it went away. And
Well,
it did not come back. And the funny thing is, after that whole event, he comes through quite a bit of the jail. It was almost like that. I'm going to give you what for, and get your story straight, and
Like,
kind of
hey, get up. You don't deserve to sleep right now.
like,
Kind of.
it's kind of reminds me of those patients, the older men that give me a hard time, and
Uh-huh.
they kind of have to put me through my paces. And
Yeah.
then they're like, okay, you've earned it. You've got your street cred. You can work with me now.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, that for me, that taught me a lot actually. And it was pretty early. That was early on when I owned the business, and it really reinforced with me, we got to do this the right way. It's, I get so sad and so a little disgusted when I see teams going out there, especially, I see like YouTube videos and things like that, and they're in jails or something with billy clubs
You know,
and just being so incredibly disrespectful because at, the net is this is still their home and I'm a
Mhm.
guest there and I need to behave as such. I don't care what type of building it is, be it a psych hospital. And the funny thing, the building that I work at for occupational therapy was the city's old original hospital. So none of my patients know what I do, with paranormal investigating, because I don't want them to think like, oh, she's the angel of death or something like that.
yeah,
Staff know what I do. And they all come tell me their stories because it's a very old building and it had a lot happen in it. But yeah, I learned it's just you just gotta do it the right way.
yeah.
Yeah,
But kind of funny, like,
totally.
how you're saying you don't tell your patients what you do. So, like, I work in a middle school, and like all the kids come up to me, "Hey, are you the ghost guy?" It's like
I
everybody knows.
I worked in the schools for a while. Yeah, and it was like that's hard to keep that secret. Especially it was in a small community in Cave Creek. The other area that I said was had Desmont Sanatorium, old tubercular land. And the parents knew, and I'm doing these pro bono investigations for the local museum and things like that because they have an old tubercular cabin there and parents would show up and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We had- I had one time we had done a segment on the news, and I walked into a patient's room and it was New Year's Eve and they were doing our favorite, it was one of the Arizona local channels and their segment was our favorite interviews from whatever year it was, right? And I'm standing next to a patient's bed and she's looking at the TV and I'm looking at her chart and I'm not really paying attention to her TV. And she's looking at me and she's looking at the TV and she's looking at me and she goes, is that you? I look at the TV
Nice.
and it's like, oh, yeah, it is.
That's my second
Uh,
job.
but yeah, no, it's interesting. And I have a lot happen I've had some of my most intense things happen with patients that are passing or near passing. And it's, the nurses always, if they've got someone that they feel might be, you know, there, actively dying is what we call it in healthcare. They're like, oh, do you sense anything? Do you see anything? I mean, because I've had some pretty intense things happen with patients. I mean, even patients that are not, that we don't realize they're actively passing, and they are. Yeah, so it's,
Yeah, I feel like I've seen a lot of activity on dementia units, and I think that makes sense because a lot of patients that are in like late stage dementia are closer to passing than other people. So
yeah.
when paranormal things happen in like those type of units, it kind of makes sense to me, but I've had some weird stuff happen.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a nurse practitioner student.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
congratulations.
I didn't want to bring it up right away, but I 100% understand the healthcare vibe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I've only had one time, I mean, without, violating any HIPAA regulations. I've had one time where, because again, the whole staff knows, and they brought me this guy and they're like, and I've seen, when you're in their rooms and so Courtney, when you have someone nonverbal that's had a massive CVA and they're nonverbal, they are neglectful of one side, and then all of a sudden you're in their room and they start talking about
mhm.
who's standing there in front of them.
Oh, that happens all the time. And I always have this feeling that like a lot of times I don't think that they're just seeing things. I think this is really happening. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
get that vibe, but you have to believe that, And I know some of my coworkers would be like, "Oh, they're just seeing things." I'm like, I don't think they are because I don't feel that they are. Like, you just get that vibe.
I had one time I had a patient and I adored this lady and she
Yeah.
was Polish and I grew up in a Polish community in Chicago and she used to call me her little adopted Polish daughter. And she was in skilled nursing and I worked with her on and off for years because when she wasn't in the skilled section, she was up in assisted living. We had two levels. Got to know her family and everything. This woman was just wonderful and she had congestive heart failure and all she wanted to do was be able to take herself to the bathroom. And I don't think a lot of people realize when you get sick and you get old, those basic abilities to do things, especially if you have something like congestive heart failure, how it becomes almost impossible. And it takes forever to get up and to walk to the bathroom and to walk back. And the caregivers were like, oh my God, this woman takes entirely too long, you know? But it was purposeful for her. So for her occupational therapy, we're going to get up every day. Emma
We
wants
appreciate you. Trust me, we
to.
appreciate you very much.
And that was it meant a lot to her. I mean, that
Yeah.
really meant a lot to her. And I normally never, ever, ever accept gifts from my patients. We're not supposed to. And, unless it's something we can share, like candy or something like that. But she knew I loved antiques. And she gave me this little porcelain, it's a hair receptacle back from when women would brush their
Oh, yeah.
hair, put the hair in from the hairbrush and once they had enough, they would make pin cushions.
Hmm.
And she gave it to me, and I was like, thank you so much. Well, I was at work. I went into work early one day, and I went to tell her, hey, you have a cardiology appointment. Don't worry. Go. I'm going to wait for you. When you get back, I'm going to make sure we have our time together because she really looked forward to that time. And so so she goes to her appointment and she was saying maybe I shouldn't go, and I was like, no, go to your appointment, it's important. I will wait for you. And so it was around lunchtime, it's just going to be lunchtime, and I'm walking down the hall. So, when you're walking your head side to side, you're making sure no one's fallen out of their bed. I'm on my way to an appointment upstairs in assisted living, and I'm going past her room, and the lights are off. She had a window in her room, though, but I could see her walking into the bathroom. And I could see her from like her forearm back, and I remember thinking, those dang CNAs, I need to tell them walk behind the patient, not in front of the patient, because if they fall, you're not going to be able to catch them. And I mean, the bath, I can see it right now. The bathroom light was on, door was open, and I see her walking in. I was like, okay, they got her. So, and I'm running late for an appointment. So I get to my appointment like a minute later. And just after that, my supervisor calls me and she said, I just wanted to tell you before you heard it on the unit because, it's going to spread like wildfire. So and so died. I was like, what do you mean? I just saw her. I mean, I just saw her. Did she have a massive heart attack? Did she fall and hit her head? Again, because the CNA should have been walking behind her. What do you mean? She goes, no, she was never in her room. She said
Wow.
they wheeled her into the dining room and she closed her eyes and they thought she fell asleep, but she passed. And it would have been right around the same time that I went walking past her room.
Wow.
And and I have well, I've got another story that kind of adds on to that, but this is where I come to, this is how I view things. How lucky am I that she came to me. Here I said, I will wait for you, but she came to me and let me see her. And and every time I tell this story, I get goosebumps.
Mhm.
But that's how I view my paranormal investigations. And I tell our guests that too. How lucky are we that these spirits choose to come forward, that they trust us that much, that they choose to come forward and let us experience them.
I think people
Right.
forget that spirits are people. You know what I mean? That's huge.
Yeah. And so and I've had several experiences similar to that, but that was the most intense one. I mean, I've had where people tell me, that they see people around me or angels, or like the lady who had a massive stroke, nonverbal, neglectful on one side, but then started talking and saying, they're singing and it sounds beautiful. So those things happen. And again, that is when you're asking what AZ Ghost Adventures is about. I mean, this AZ Ghost Adventures is not something that's just started in 2021 when I bought it, but this has been a long process. and it continues to be a process. But that is really where we come from on this. How lucky are we to get to experience this? And, and they want to come through and they want you to recognize them. And I do believe that, spirits don't experience time like we do. I think 100 years to us is probably a blink of an eye for them, but still that they have that trust in coming forward to us. And so to move on with that story a little bit, I was telling that story at Bullion Plaza, which is an old segregated school. It's a huge building, and they have a Slavic room. So it's a cultural center now. And so they have different rooms dedicated to different things. And I love the Slavic room because it highlights all the people, the Slavic people that came over to help build. It's the city of Miami, again, the sister city of Globe. And I was telling this story, and I had that little antique there, and all of the equipment went off. And we just happened to have a photographer there that night, and he took a picture. And if you go on our Facebook page, you can see it. There is this huge mist above my head.
Wow.
And even when he took the picture, he's like, what in the hell is that? Look at this. But there's this definite picture above my head. And we've had it when we were talking with the Travel Channel about coming out there, which they did. That was one of the pieces of evidence that I sent them. And they were like, this picture is the real deal. We can't dispute it. We can't debunk it. So yeah, it's those types of things that we have happen. And we tell people when they come on our investigations, it's not entertainment. If that's what you're looking for, we are not the company for you. We'll refer you to some other places, but that is not what we do. But we definitely can be an experience for you, especially if you believe in the paranormal and and you've had things happening and you explore that. I do have to say though, I always laugh when we have the big guys show up, and or like, because I ask people, do you believe in paranormal? I kind of, get a feel for who our guests are before we start investigating. And several times we've had where these big guys come and they're like, no, our wives bought us this. They thought that we would, I don't know. I'm not afraid to believe in it. And you get about halfway through and they want to be right next to you. Because they're like a little scared.
Yeah, like, oh, this is real.
They can't explain it. We've had a couple of times where they're like, we're going to go now. Like, yeah, it kind of freaks you out when you can't wrap your mind around it, huh?
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, it's good. And we have a lot, like I said, we have a lot of repeat customers that come. They really become part of our family, our investigation family. And and they get a fondness for certain locations. Like there's some people that always got to go to the jail, some people that always have to go to Bullion Plaza, some that always have to go to Acadia Ranch. I mean, that's just, they feel at home there. And that's kind of like their mission, getting, what it's almost like they're driven to get that experience and what can they get out of it. So, which is great. That's what we want.
I have a question for you. For me and I guess everybody else watching, how do does anybody go about like joining an investigation with you guys?
So you go on our website. It's hard. It's azghostadventures.com. So hard.
Yeah.
And then you can see, I normally will post what's coming up for like, I am so sorry the light here is weird.
You're fine.
Too bad.
There. But you just go on our website and we normally have what's coming up for like the next 2 months. And then we take a little break over the summertime because it's hotter than Hades out here. And that's when I like to, move about and go investigate in other places. Like Flagstaff has some phenomenal locations, the Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff. That is an amazing. I've been there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the other place that I want to try to get a room at for our little trip.
Amazing. I've been there several times. And then, again, the staff there is very welcoming. to us being there. I've been to some places where they're like, yeah, no. And it's like, okay, like I was at the Stanley, well, I was at the Stanley Hotel. That was a good hotel. I was somewhere where they were not so inviting. I can't remember, but the Stanley was a pretty interesting hotel. Um, but anyways, I'm sorry, squirrel. Yeah, www.azghostadventures.com, and you can see what we have coming up. And I always tell people to, to look on our Facebook page. It's AZ Ghost Adventures, AZ Ghost Adventures Evidence and Discussion. That's a page where more people can post things. And then we have Arizona Hauntings and the Supernatural. And then we're on TikTok, AZ Ghost Adventures, Instagram, AZ Ghost Adventures. And I am a firm believer in posting my evidence. I don't feel that people should have to pay for it. I try to put out as much evidence as possible on our site. Like you were talking about Acadia Ranch, I put out not too long ago a video that happened at Acadia Ranch, and it was in the bathhouse, so the tuberculosis sanatorium, and they had a room, we call it the bathhouse, but a room where the patients would get bathed. And I can tell you, if you have tuberculosis, the last thing you want is to get into a tub of water. I mean, you are just so beat up from tuberculosis. I mean, imagine it's like, well, like from the inside out that it is.
I've only had a couple patients with true TB, and it was rough for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had set up a camera in there, and there was a gentleman and his wife walked in, and he starts asking questions. And he asked one question, and you could clearly hear a woman's voice say, I was in heaven. So, I mean, we've got that out there. We've got other things. I mean, I wish I could post all the evidence I have, because I got a lot, but I try, I don't want to, so, sometimes you feel like you're getting the same thing. Like if you get a lot of para-REM activity, like our electronics activity and things like that. And something also that we try to do when we investigate is I don't take like a paralight going off and that's gospel truth that there's something going on. I'll try to maybe use my dowsing rods, which are my favorite tool. And let's see if we can get a para-REM to go off. And let's see if we can get something on the spirit box at the same time. Oh, and by the way, let's see if we can get something to set off a motion sensor. So we try to get multiple layers of things happening, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's awesome.
So I have a question going back to your investigations and your guests. What is like one of the craziest experiences a guest has ever encountered?
Oh, that's a good question. I got one. Okay, Boyan Plaza. Again, it was built in 1923, and it was a segregated school for the Apache children, the Mexican American children, and back then they would say the Oriental, Asian children, and it was so segregated back then. Globe and Miami have, which are now closed off, underground tunnel systems that these what they would consider second class citizens had to use for moving about the cities, right? So I'm giving you a little backdrop here. So Boyan Plaza, 35,000 plus square feet, old segregated school, which is now a cultural center. Also, where we're at is all old Apache land. I mean, the San Carlos Reservation is, not too terribly far from us. So you always have to recognize that there's that influence also. And I had a guest that well, I've got a couple of good stories, but this one is a good story. I have a guest that had set up her cot. She was staying overnight and she set up her cot in what we call the Native American room. And it's got a lot of artifacts from Hohokam, the Salado tribes, and it's an incredibly active room. And in fact, we have a team that investigates a lot with us, and he is from the White Mountain Apache tribe. So this gal was in this room, and I'm in the hallway because I tend to stay up all night during the investigations. And this lady comes barreling down the hall screaming my name. I'm like, what's going on? And she's a seasoned investigator too. Seasoned enough that she was smart enough to have a camera on her cot, trained onto her cot.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh my God, something kicked my cot. Something kicked my cot." I was like, "What?" Well, she had been laying in her cot and she goes, "I was singing a song in Apache." And I was like, "What was it?" She goes, "It was a morning song." Well, I thought she meant Mourning, that type of morning. And I was like, "Oh, really?" And she gets her camera and sure enough, you can see something. She's in the cot and something just, I mean, bangs that cot. And it scared her because she was by herself down the hall. And I was like, "What kind of morning song was it? Was it about, someone passing?" And she goes, "No, not that type of morning. It was the type of morning song. It's time to get up and go to work
Mm-hmm.
and get busy." And I said, "Okay, so wait a minute. You're in a room, laying down in a cot and getting ready to go to sleep, and you're singing a song telling these Native American spirits that it's time for them to get up and go to work, and you're surprised that your cat got kicked."
Yeah.
Maybe that wasn't the best time to be singing that song. And
Yeah.
we had to wait a few hours. So yeah, so that was really, and she caught it on camera. Yeah, something
Nice.
banged her cat. And there was nothing else around it. We've had that. We've had one time we had same location, a little girl, oh, not a little girl, but there's known to be a little girl spirit in there. I've seen her myself. Local police officer has seen her, but we were having an investigation, and this girl, she was about 15, came up to me and she said, "So who's the little girl that I keep seeing on the stairs?" And I don't talk about it that much on the investigations. And I had not talked about it on that investigation. So she saw the little girl, which was nice when you have someone, that young and not, I mean, I say not exposed. I guess kids these days are exposed to a lot more, but it's not something that's out there about, it's not, it's not one of the prevalent stories about that location. Um, let's see, I mean, we have people get pictures of shadow figures. We have people hear people talking. We get a lot of EVPs. But yeah, that one gal running down the hall, I just, you know, while she got spooked, then she realized, oh yeah, that probably wasn't the best song for me to be singing
Yeah.
to sit, like 2 in the morning. So
I
yeah.
have one more question for you. If there was a location kind of somewhere around the areas that I listed, that was like lesser known that I could get into an investigation at, what place?
Oh,
Because I would love to do that. We wanted to find like a place where we could do like even just like a couple hours and like investigate a place that was like known in the area but not known across the nation necessarily.
so when you go out and you're talking about a nighttime investigation?
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe like evening. It could be evening too. You know, a lot of places seems like they do it like 8, you know,
Uh-huh.
7, 8 o'clock. They start doing that kind of stuff.
I know in Tombstone, again, Pete Spence, who moved to Globe, and his spirit comes through quite a bit here. But his original house is out there. Tombstone, I'm not, I mean, I've been out there and I've investigated, but more so investigated like in the bed and breakfast that I stay in. I always tell people that,
Yeah.
like, look for a bed and breakfast that has activity, or a hotel that is like, I know across from the bird cage, it's been like a year and a half since
What
I've been.
about, because I know like Bisbee, I
Bisbee's
know
been
there's places there. I just can't think of like any specific one at the moment.
is again, that's the hotel that I mentioned,
Yeah.
and it's an active hotel.
Okay.
I've had quite a bit of activity happen there, yeah. And they are very welcoming to people investigating there. It's a wonderful hotel.
Okay. Well, it's weird that you listed a lot of the places that I had already looked into, so I was like, maybe I'm missing something. I
Because
think
I
you might
always
have
get
done
the
a shot.
opportunity. And then what I do is when I walk around, I mean, I always have one of my, I got it on one of my AZ Ghost Adventure shirts on.
Okay. Yeah.
I wear it everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's funny when I go somewhere and people are like, "Oh, I follow you," but it starts for a good conversation. Did it just get really dark in here?
It
Yeah,
did.
it did. Yeah. It
Mhm.
got dark here too, so mutual.
Here we go. It starts for a really good conversation. I just ask people,
Yeah. Okay.
"Hey, what?" So I'm staying there. What's going, have you had any activity? We've had, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like if you're in an old establishment or something like that, oh, Oliver House, the Oliver Houses, I've never stayed there, but I want to. I've heard that place is pretty active. That's in Bisbee.
Okay.
Yeah. But then you just get to talking to people about it. And, the locals are the wealth of information I mean, I still get people out here that stop me and they're like, you want to come look at our old building? You want to come look at, we don't do homes. My liability insurance,
Mhm.
A, doesn't cover it, and B, it's not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I save that for people who that's what they do. Um, but, uh, but yeah, I mean, once you start, you just talk to people. I talk nonstop to people and just finding out what's going on. Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, the Copper Queen is amazing. Oliver House, I've heard, is spectacular. Um, I'm trying to think. Bisbee has just some really neat places to drive around. Like they've got an old cemetery there. Again, I think that spirits hang out in cemeteries? Not a lot, not a whole lot, but I do love going into cemeteries and appreciating the headstones like that. So
If a specific, very unique type of cemeteries in that area, kind of
yeah.
like New Orleans does. You have your own vibe over there in Arizona as well.
Oh, I love New Orleans. When I lived in Texas, we'd go to New Orleans all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, every
That's
place has their own like unique thing with cemeteries, and I don't know, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
morbid, but I think it's interesting.
No, yeah.
did when I was in New Orleans last time, and we went on a tour because I usually go with my sister, so I book in something, and it's usually like a bus tour. And I want to be a tourist sometimes too. So I
Hmm.
go on the walking tours and and learn about it and things like that. And we were at this one cemetery at night, and I happened to just, something tells you to stop and take a picture.
Hmm.
And it was, I mean, it was closed. They have the big iron gates that lock it up. And I just was in this one spot and I started taking a bunch of pictures, like looking through a bunch of tall headstones, and there was a figure standing there.
Wow.
Oh,
And the cemetery was locked up. So, and it's not like the it looks like a person, but it doesn't look like a person. You know what I
I've
mean?
had that exact same type of thing in Door County, Wisconsin. I took a photo on the exterior of this like abandoned, creepy, like really old cemetery from like the beginning of origin of Wisconsin, so like the late 1700s.
Mhm.
And we were leaving because we got this really bad vibe, and same thing. There was like this shape of a human like standing right next to like the entrance, and I mean, it was just like a shape of a human,
Yeah.
and
It's
we had the feeling to go with it.
it's funny that you talk about that because I had a picture that I had taken at Bullion Plaza years ago, and it was on my old phone, and I almost got rid of it because I was like I didn't have enough memory and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll look at it on my computer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I caught. And I remember the night I was there, and there were four of us setting up for an investigation, and three of us. And the two other people were downstairs. And I had gone upstairs to, just to check out to make sure everything was okay. And I remember turning and taking pictures down the hallway. And we do believe that there's a spirit there named Cecilia, and she's kind of like the caretaker. And I caught this picture of a lady standing like right out, and we always thought that she had a fondness for the director. And she was standing like right outside his office door because that's where his office door was. And the thing is, you could tell it's a person, but it's not a person. Does that make sense? Like
Yep.
it's a dark, dark shadow, but very definitive. And I put it online, and I was asking people, hey, can you help me with this again? I'm not a techie person. But I had like put it through several filters on my phone, and you can see the head, the hair, the shoulders, the dress, like a dark, dark, dark shadow, but no legs.
Wow.
And this, so of course you get these, people online saying, "Hey, that's great. Look at this." And then you get the people saying, "Oh, you're fake. You're faking
Well,
it."
when you have two photos back to back within seconds, and one shows this and one doesn't, it's pretty compelling because it's obviously not your camera.
And they're like, "Look at what." I
Yeah.
remember this one person got like really upset with me. And it's like, well, I'm asking for your help with this. And
Yeah, right.
belligerent. And they're like, "Look it, I put it through all these filters. Look it. There, it's a woman." And I was like, "But look it, she has no legs.
Yeah.
Thank you for adding these extra filters. But look it, she has no legs. She has no face." It's like,
This
look.
isn't a real person there.
Yeah, so it's always, and then sure enough, a few years later, the gentleman who's Apache that his team investigates with us a lot, he took a picture from down the hall, and you can see a woman, and it looks like she's dancing in the hallway. But again, it's one of those, it's a person, but it's not a person.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of it's nice when you get something very similar at different times and from two
Yeah.
different. But yeah, that always makes me laugh and I get it. I mean, AI, it's the worst thing that's happened to paranormal investigating
Hmm.
because no one's going to know what's real or what's
Yeah.
not.
Yep.
So, I mean, again, a techie. I started using it for like my cover sheets, for investigations and things
Yeah.
like that.
Us too.
Yep.
But
That's all I use it for.
I mean, that's the only thing it's really helpful for.
Right.
Yeah.
And taking people out of photos that you don't want in the background. But otherwise, yeah.
but insofar as evidence is how are we going to know? It's just, yeah, it's taken it to a whole new level, and you can't tell what's real and what's not real these days. So, and it's only going to get better. AI is only going to get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what? And that's where people
Well,
are going to have to
it's
go
more
on real
important to
investigations
get people out in investigations to see it in real life and not focus on the videos and stuff.
Yep.
That's where that's more important, I feel like these days. You got to have them have that genuine experience.
Yeah, they're just going to have to, and I don't know. I don't know how that's going to.
Yeah.
And my husband is in technology, and he's like, he has said for a while AI is going to put so many people out of work, but
Not us healthcare workers.
no, not the
Maybe
hands
a little bit, but not, they just can't replace us.
I don't know, but if you're like an epidemiologist or something like that,
Yeah, you might want to worry. Yeah.
yeah,
They got but even if you're over a video camera, you're still there, you know. So I don't know if they can completely do that, but it's getting there.
but yeah, it is scary for what we do. Um, things will come. It's either going to come full circle or it's not, or people are going to divide again, like we were
Yep.
saying. And you'll have to go on a real investigation to experience it because you're not going to be able to trust what you experience on a video screen.
Right.
So that's just the way it's going to be, which isn't a bad thing for me.
No,
But
I was gonna say that's a great thing because we love sharing our videos and sharing like what we've experienced, but for me, it's all about the actual experience in the moment
Oh yeah.
because it's for us. Like I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm sharing with you because I'm excited about it. But if you don't
Yeah.
believe it, that's okay. I was there, you weren't there, so
Exactly.
that's all right.
and the funny thing is doing this, I never, well, I shouldn't say never, but I hardly ever watch like paranormal shows on TV or
Yeah.
I have a select few that I watch,
Yeah.
and
yeah, select
specific
few.
ones of people that I've either met or just I trust.
Yeah.
You know.
But the ones where their REM pods are bedazzled.
I don't know about that. I like to have some bedazzling though, you can't be a hater.
My walkie's bedazzled.
But that's a girl thing. That's a girl vibe.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't it set off the K2 meter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean like, you gotta have your ghost stickers on your bag and that makes it fun.
Yeah. No, I just like putting rhinestones and studs on my walkie-talkie.
Yeah, no.
That way I know which one's mine out of all of the guys.
None of my actual paranormal equipment has that, but on the outside of the bag and on
Yeah.
my board here.
So yeah, but I hope you have a good time
Yeah.
investigating these, and it actually is a beautiful state. I have lived in a lot of states. Like I said, I grew up in Chicago. People never say Illinois, they just say Chicago. But I truly grew up in Chicago and then lived in Houston and then in the foothills of Mount Rainier, where I had a lot of crazy things happen there too. And it's beautiful there when it's not raining, but it's raining most of the time. And then moving here, Arizona is just so interesting. People think of Arizona and they just think cactus. They don't realize right now the deserts are in full bloom, and the cactus have flowers on them.
Does it stay that way for early May? Because I would love to see that. That sounds so
It's gonna start getting a little warm.
okay.
The flowers may not be on the cactus then, but the trees will be green. And and I always say if you don't like what you have, you're an hour to 2 hour drive to something completely different. Like you can be in the valley where it's hotter than hell,
Yeah,
and but in a few hours you're in Sedona or in Jerome or Bisbee or even Globe where it's 10 degrees cooler,
yeah,
or Flagstaff where it's much cooler. And sometimes you'll drive for just an hour or two and you're like, well, am I in the same state?
right. Yeah.
It's just so different.
I've never even been to Arizona in the States, so I'm excited
It's
just to
beautiful.
visit.
And I would have to say, Arizona has the most spectacular sunrises and sunsets. And I mean, even last night I went outside and I was like, oh my God, look at that sunset. I mean, they have the most spectacular red sunsets here.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of areas like Acadia Ranch that you were asking about in Oracle. That's known as dark sky country. So you'll go there and it's like you can reach up and touch the Milky Way.
Wow.
And you'll see, shooting stars all the time. It's just spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get a room with a balcony, hopefully in the Jerome Grand, and like stand on the balcony and like watch the sunset.
Yeah, no, I've stayed there several times. They do have some really nice rooms with the balconies. Um, and there's a great place right across the street called Haunted Hamburger. They have good food there.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out.
And then there's another when you're in Jerome. Okay, so if you're going down, the Jerome Grand is kind of a hill, and the streets are kind of zigzaggy. Old mining town. And I do you know any of the history of Jerome?
Yeah, yeah, but I've looked up some
We
things.
had the
Yeah.
explosion and with all the um, using the ashes from the cremated bodies for the sidewalks.
Yeah.
When you're up at the Jerome Grand and you go down the hill, and that plate, the haunted hamburger will be on your right side, and that tour place I told you will be on your left side. And you keep going down the hill, and then it turns to your right. There is like a shop there, and I've actually investigated there. So I would go talk to those people and see maybe they'll let you tool around in it. It's interesting. I don't know if they're doing any investigations there. But yeah, I have invested. It was several years ago, but I investigated in that shop. Interesting.
Yeah,
You
very
you
interesting.
have to go down to where the dressing rooms were and things like that. So, and if not, there'll be a wealth of information for letting you know
Miss
what.
Kitty's General Store? Is
Pardon
that
me?
it? Is it Miss Kitty's?
It might be, yeah. So Jerome went through a really hard time when COVID hit. They were one of the areas that were super strict on, what businesses could, how many people you could have in. So a lot of those mom and pop businesses shut down.
Yeah.
A lot of the wineries came in. So it went from being like a lot of little mom and pop stores to more, boutique style
Yeah.
wineries. But it's definitely a very interesting town with an amazing history. And again, the cemetery there is amazing. You can go during the daytime on your own. And the high school, if the tour does the tour of the old high school, I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I remember one time I was at the Jerome Grand and I was investigating there, and I was up on the top floor, and the uh, night manager, and he was actually going to school for nursing, And the things you remember, right? Because this was a while ago. And he came upstairs. And I'm like, listen. He goes, what? I said, do you hear the woman singing in there? And you can hear a woman humming.
Wow.
And he goes, okay, well, two things. Number one, no one has rented that room. And number two, that's the old nursery.
Wow.
Okay, well then. So yeah, it's definitely a neat hotel.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Jada, do you have any other questions?
I think that Courtney, like anytime something pop into my head, Courtney just went ahead and set.
Well, I had done some research on this because I'm going there, so I mean that's
Yeah, you covered pretty much everything that I was going to have. I just had maybe the last thing that I have is for you to go into your like top 5 or top 3 pieces of equipment that you'd like to use.
That's a great question. Number one, my dowsing rods. And
Mm-hmm.
did I get my hair all crazy looking? Dowsing rods. I believe they turn you become the piece of equipment then.
Yeah.
And when I'm investigating, I mean, when I'm investigating with a group of people, yes, I like for people to see what happens, the lights or the sounds or the SB7 or whatever. But to have that experience of holding those rods and feeling them pull and knowing what they're doing. I mean, we've even had where my rods were like started bouncing and you could see holding my hands still as still could be, and the rods were still bouncing.
Yeah.
So to have that, and I've actually trained a lot of people how to use it, which it's not rocket science on how to use dowsing rods. But a lot of it comes with just kind of grounding yourself. I hated dowsing rods when I first started using them, but something kept telling me I needed to use them. And so a lot of it comes with grounding yourself and just kind of getting into that headspace of this and, focusing. So that is my favorite piece of equipment. The next, I mean, I love the tripwire. I think that's a really neat, especially the new updated one that makes sound. So if something's going on behind you, you can hear it. And it's a little bit sturdier also. We've had that where we've had something at one end of the tripwire and a bottle of whiskey at the other end of the tripwire and said, you can go, that's for you. We brought it for you. You can go get, and you could see the lights lighting up as if something was walking down towards that bottle of whiskey. Another favorite piece, I love my SB7 because we do a
Yeah.
lot of these sessions. My guests love the parabolic mic. We'll let them, because they get to use all of our equipment. Well, they get to put the parabolic, it's like the spy microphone. So you can put it on, where you're holding that thing and they can hear what we can't hear in real time. Love my SLS cameras. And again, we utilize those. If something shows up, you don't just see something and say, oh my God, that must be what it is. No, we ask whatever figure shows up to do certain movements or touch something, to try to validate it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking what else? I mean, we have a lot of assortment of REM pods or pods, I guess I'll call them. Because again, we try to support local small businesses. So if they're selling something that's not the standard REM pod, we'll buy it, use it, and we'll highlight it if we can. So yeah, it's just, and it's what people prefer. I mean, sometimes my favorite piece of equipment is a balloon. Like if we're at
Yeah.
ranch and we're working with the little boy who had that
Yeah.
accident, I'm going to get a lot more with a balloon and a piece of,
Exactly. Most pieces of equipment are just relative.
yeah, they are. So you've heard the phrase know your audience.
Yep.
Yes.
And the spirits are our audience. And what do they want? What would they like? What would they appreciate? And I tell a lot of people too, we use trigger objects. I openly say that we use trigger objects because I am going into their home. And if I go into someone's home, like if I were to come into your house, I would bring some flowers or some wine or something that I think, thank you for letting me into your house. Here's a small gift for you, right?
Yeah.
We do the same thing on our investigations. What would they appreciate? Sometimes it might be a jail cell with a bottle of whiskey in it and a cigar. if that's what we feel is appropriate for that area. You know, if we're in another area, the jail has a woman and children section, we'll bring some dolls and some toys and some jewelry, things, you know, so it's all, it changes depending on where we're at. But yeah, so sometimes your trigger objects are your best piece of equipment. That's
Right.
what's cool.
So my last question I have, what are your 3 bucket list locations you like to go to and investigate?
Oh, yes. Gettysburg. In fact, I told my husband we're going
Really?
to Gettysburg. I am hopefully planning next year also a trip to Romania and
Nice.
Pennsylvania. And ironically, when I first started talking about going to Transylvania, I had like 3 patients that were from Transylvania. And
Interesting.
so I would ask them these questions, and I was just like, is this like fate? You like they happen to be on my patient list, and you know, and they tell us that Transylvania, while the movies make it out to be gray and spooky, and it's actually beautiful. It's actually
Yeah.
beautiful with flowers and yeah, lots of greenery. So Transylvania, like I said, Gettysburg, and then I would have to say, oh gosh, that's just, it's a hard one. I mean, I love investigating in churches, old churches, but I would have to say some sort of, I've been to Eloise, that in the, you know, the asylum,
Yep.
um, which we got some great EVPs there. But yeah, I mean, I would love to try to go to some place like Waverly or Trans-Allegheny, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I need to add more to my bucket list, huh?
I think the first one or second thing you said was probably a unique thing because we haven't gotten that yet. Many people haven't said things that were like overseas, so
Yeah, no, that's one of my plans is for next year. I had wanted to do it this year, and I was looking into it because, you know, again, if you go someplace like that, it's a process.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
And
yeah.
honestly, if you're, you know, in a area like that, and you would definitely do it guided. And I do know that some of the I hate using the word celebrities, but some of those people will do a big trip, a guided trip there.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always been hoping, oh, maybe it'll just pop up. Because it's always nice to have someone who speaks the language and knows the cultural things going on. So you just don't like get lost.
That's why I really
Yep.
like Ireland because they speak English in Ireland.
Well, and one of my places because I'm half Polish and half Irish. So on my bucket list of places to go are Poland and Ireland. And you know, and I haven't really looked into, I mean, we've done my family history going like where they came from in Ireland. And yeah, I would have to look into some places. I guess I've just been so focused on the Transylvania trip just to go to a castle and
Yep.
Dracula's castle at that.
So
So, and just the history, you know, not for the like spooky scary part of it, but for like being able to like
Yeah.
literally touch the history of it.
exactly,
Yep.
Of, you know,
100%.
it tragically happened. So, and people will say that's morbid, but and I come back with you can't change history. It happened.
True.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
learn how to learn about it and appreciate. And in the way I mean appreciate, I mean really learn about it because and how that has changed cultures.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
All right.
You got your last question that you're gonna ask her?
Yep. Jada, send us up with your last question.
Uh-oh.
All right. I normally ask this before we finish. I just want to know what your favorite scary movie is.
Oh, easy. Well, I got 2 of them.
Okay.
The original Halloween for the psychological.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Not all the, I don't think I've even watched any of the others, but the whole psychological aspect of this it really happen kind of thing, and that he just kind of goes up. And again, as someone who has worked in psych hospital environment, let me tell you, there are some, I am much more afraid of the alive people than I am of the people that
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
there's some, yeah. So that, and then for like, you know, is what is it called? 30 Days of Darkness, 30 Days of Night, whatever it is.
Oh,
It's that
oh,
zombie
but yeah,
movie. Or are they Draculas? They're like zombie Draculas.
I love
yeah,
that you like the OGs because that's awesome.
Yeah, that one. And they move so fast in
Right.
that movie. And it's just like, yeah, but that's second to the original Halloween.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I have a fact about that movie, the original Halloween. Apparently, they actually scared her. It was like a genuine reaction. They didn't tell her that that scene was going to happen that way. And so her screaming in that moment when he's like getting up on her is a real like thing. Like she was screaming because she was freaked out.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
it's great. I mean, all the like Saw movies and all the
Yeah.
it's at some point it's just like, yeah, no, it doesn't.
right.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just gore with plot at a
Yeah,
certain
I'm not a
point.
gore person either. I actually really like the supernatural or the psychologic horror movies. That's just
Like,
always been
yeah, I'm
like,
not a really big fan of all of the gore, and sometimes it gets a little too Hollywood that we lose the plot.
yeah,
Yep.
And as someone who loves like storytelling and wants to go into like journalism, I love the script parts of movies. So I
right.
do like very dialogue heavy movies, and sometimes horror movies just lose that.
they're too
Right.
much.
Or it's the opposite. Sometimes there's too much dialogue and you kind of
Too much
hold it in the
dialogue.
beginning and then it gets really good, but you never get there because you fall asleep.
Yeah.
Well, what they did with Halloween was
Yeah.
our brains are so amazing of what they can make you think or do, or so you don't need the gore. I mean, if it's
Right.
done,
Right.
you don't need the gore
You don't
because
even need to show it because your brain knows what's gonna happen. Exactly.
your brain's gonna. Where are they? Where did they go?
Or it's even better when you have your imagination fill in the gaps because then it's unique for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it when they do that.
So that's why that's my favorite
Or
movie.
they don't show what happens, but you hear the sounds and you have to imagine what's
Yep.
happening. That's my fave, and I was like, I can make it my own, like whatever I think happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that and then like I said, the zombie. It's are they vampires? Are they zombies? That they're which
I
one I'm
think that
talking
is
about.
Yeah.
vampires. Yeah.
Zombie
I like
vampires.
I like the original Dawn of the Dead, like the black and white movie. Honestly, I don't really like a lot of black and white movies, but that's a good movie. They
Yeah.
even have like an African American man as like the lead, which was unheard of for the time. And it was like a pivotal movie in like multiple ways, not just in scary movies. But I think the whole history of scary movies, that's like a whole thing I could talk about because I love that. That's like my second favorite thing.
You say that we were at my daughter's for Easter. We did the whole family got together there, and she had a book. Oh gosh, I wish I knew the name of it. And she gave it to my other daughter. She gave it to my daughter-in-law, and it is about the history of horror movies, and and the people that were like the producers, and their backgrounds and how that drove them to do certain types of movies and how movies were interconnected and things like that. So
Oh.
my
And
daughter-in-law,
how one historic event like Ed Gein's story has like literally created like five or more
yeah.
movies.
Oh my gosh, the new like biopic about Ed Gein that came out has been the worst thing to ever happen to me. Not because of the thing itself, but because my father thinks that it's the funniest thing to walk around the store yelling at me in his Ed Gein impression,
Oh my
and
God.
he constantly talks like Ed Gein. And I'll be like, we were in the car the other day,
Funny.
and I was like, yeah, I mean, I think that that's cool, but like, I wouldn't consider it as a career, it's just a hobby. And then he starts with, oh, it's just a hobby. I used to dig them up. It's just a hobby. And he goes on for like an hour.
Oh my God, that would be creepy actually.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, I have kind of a vibe with that stuff because there's so many serial killers that are from Wisconsin that it's not even funny. And
And
they're
then he
all
did the same
crazy.
thing when the Dahmer one came out.
I'm from Wisconsin, so it's like, oh my God.
Well, I'm from
Actually,
so we have
yeah.
a going
It's
back.
and it's like small town vibes too. So like you
Yeah,
know these people. It's like crazy, you know.
especially here. There's a couple people that I have my eye on at my school that I'm like,
Fun fact though, also, my friend Amanda from high school, she actually is related to Jeffrey Dahmer. So there you go.
ooh,
Okay.
Yeah, like actually not that distant a relative either. Like first cousin.
no,
I'm not
oh
kidding.
my gosh, my
They
dad's.
moved to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And that was their hometown. So Jeffrey Dahmer's mom used to live in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. And
Mm,
her I'm not gonna say it on here, but her maiden name was my friend's last name. So crazy,
right.
crazy, crazy mind-blowing stuff, right?
My
Yep.
dad's work friend lived down, was it Milwaukee, where all of it went down?
Yeah.
Yeah. She lived in the same apartment complex as him. And
That's
she was like leaving for work one day and she like looked out the window and they were just like these like blue barrels being pulled out of the stairs
oh
by
my
like
God.
cops. And she was like, what's happening? And
That would be
then
crazy to
she
hear.
heard it on the news and
What?
she was like, oh my gosh, that's in my house.
Oh my God, what? You should do an interview with her. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I need to ask dad where she's at now.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
Yeah, I
now
just can't believe how close to home that stuff gets in the small towns that,
Mm-hmm.
we have around Chippewa and
now we're
Wisconsin.
gonna go from the paranormal podcast. We're gonna shift to true crime.
I think we
Yeah.
a combination though. There's a lot of true crime that overlaps with the paranormal, 100%.
Well,
Yeah, you are correct.
Because it is a
so
traumatic event that happens.
I'm gonna
can't
have to
remember when it is.
that I don't.
On April 22nd, we have a podcast with the guilty and the ghostly. So that's a little bit of paranormal and true crime in that one.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna share something with you that I don't think I've ever shared on a podcast. So, I say I'm from Chicago
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and look up Tilly, Tilli, and the Bluebeard Click. And it was Tilly was the main one, came over from Poland, and her cousins were the Bluebeard Click, which was they were serial killers in Chicago, and
Heard of this story.
and Tilly was my great great aunt,
Oh,
and the
Wow.
cousins was my great great grandmother.
That's
right.
I guess that's close to home. So weird.
I
Isn't that
didn't
Right.
weird?
find this out until
Well,
about
my cousin was one of the people who got like struck by the Unabomber.
oh my gosh.
God, that's
Sorry,
crazy
that was kind of
too.
off.
Isn't that weird how people with like histories of traumatic events like within the family or personally just tend to like cling to the paranormal and then
Well,
Yeah.
it's
it's just
well, funny, not funny. I mean, so they
it
were
makes sense.
serial killers, and this was in the early 1900s, and they would use arsenic. And we didn't hear about this when we were growing up. It was through a lot of research, and I mean, we've seen the papers where they came over from Ellis, onto Ellis Island and everything. And again, there's a book written about them, and I didn't know anything about this. And my cousin, who took up genealogy, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've got to tell you about this. And she very much believes in the paranormal. And so, she sent me all the information, and they claimed that they were seers and that they could foretell that you're passing.
Interesting.
Well, what they were, I mean, they were probably, they were doing it for the insurance money.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it wasn't just the husbands, it was animals, it was, you know, other people. And so it's like, well, were they truly seers, and did they, because there have been a lot of people in my family that have had abilities.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
were they truly seers and they just use that to do
Be the
this
angel of
horrible
death.
thing, right? Horrible thing?
Yeah.
Or were they truly just sociopaths and they used the excuse that they were seers to do
Yeah.
this? Either way, they did this horrible thing. And it went on for years. And again, they were known as the Bluebeard Clique. I don't know how they got that name. And and it's not, it's not something I talk about. I mean, you can't undo the past, right? It's not something I've never been in trouble. So um, but so I don't carry those tendencies. But yeah, it's just weird, when you were talking about true crime like that. And we didn't know about it because the family just didn't talk about it.
The same thing happened to my friend. They didn't know about it until that documentary came out, and they were like, "Oh my gosh!" And then they looked into it, and they were like, "What?"
Yeah.
So
And
that's how it happens.
we have the family tree. So with the main character, Tilly, it stops. I mean, she didn't
Yeah,
the kids, or maybe she did, and I think they just it then and then but it stopped at some point. Whereas with the cousin, because there were three of them, the cousin who was my great great grandmother, it 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 obviously I'm here, so yeah, it's just one of those back then they just if you didn't talk about it, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
right, right.
Before internet and all these things. So you could, after a couple of generations, things just got forgotten about. And I
Yeah,
was really, the only thing that disappointed me was that there was someone who wrote a book about it, but never bothered to contact the family.
Hmm.
So, like, I certainly would have, I certainly would have found it interesting that they had this happen and they said they were seers. And again, I'm not a psychic medium, but I tell people it's like a movie going on in my head that I can see but I can't see,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of my investigating. And I don't call myself a seer though, but it would be interesting to have that type of research into what drove them to do what they were doing. Obviously they were doing it for the money and
Yeah.
people to do what they did. I'm not just
I think we should have Rita back to talk about her Chicago experiences because I know you have some fascination on a lot of the Chicago haunted areas.
it's
But
Oh
that
a
could
yeah.
be a whole podcast by itself.
I mean,
We'll have to set that up.
Because yeah, I don't know if he was aware of that, so I think that would be really cool.
well, and the funny thing was, when I was at the Kansas City Paracon, there was a guy there that had, true crime, and he had a book, and I had him sign it for my daughter-in-law and everything. And I was like, and he was talking about Chicago, and I was like, oh, I'm from Chicago, and I said, and I started telling him about Tilly, and then I said, she said she was a seer, and he's like, hang on, and he pulled out, he had actually made a board game that was kind of like a cross between Monopoly and Dungeons and Dragons or something like I don't play a lot of board games.
Yeah.
And you had playing cards for all these serial killers, right? And he had a card for Tilly.
Yeah,
And
I've definitely heard of her from one of the crime documentaries that I've watched. I'm sure of it. So, yeah, it's crazy.
but like I said, there were three of them, and there's story behind how the others, like apparently my great great grandmother got off on a technicality because something about her son or someone she knew who worked for the newspaper and they spelled her name wrong because those Polish names could be,
Yeah.
difficult with them. And so it kind of got her off on a technicality or something like that. And so, which is why I'm here today. But yeah, it's interesting when you find out things like that have happened in your own family. A little disturbing, but
Yeah.
it
Right.
was over
Shocking,
like
to say the least.
however many years ago. So
Yeah.
there, you got my
Well,
story. First time on a podcast that
we
I'm
could
telling this story.
totally have another podcast with you, though. I
Oh,
love
for
Yes.
that
sure.
with you. We got a lot of good things to talk about.
We'll
So,
we'll definitely get it set up.
yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we'll say to be continued.
All
Yes.
right. Well,
Oh,
I'm so glad
Yes.
we finally got to do this. It's only been 6 months, 8 months,
Oh,
whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, it's been forever.
It has been forever. Yeah. Yeah. So this is good. No.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank
thank
you for having me. It was
Yep.
nice meeting you two ladies, Jada, Courtney.
thank you so much. It's
Yeah, thank
nice
you so
meeting
much.
you. Of
Thank you for the tips.
Yep. All
course.
right. Well, everybody
Bye.
have a good night.
Yeah.
You too.
All right.
Courtney,
Bye.
you're then welcome to DM me or
Okay.
email me,
Sure.
azghostadventuresgmail.com. And if I'm in town that week, I'm going to be in Yuma part of that time. But yeah, I'll try to look for some more things for
That'd
you.
be cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye
All
guys.
right,
Night.
bye.